We are governed, our minds are molded, our tastes formed, and our ideas suggested, largely by men we have never heard of. This was the provocative claim made in 1928 by Edward Bernays, father of public relations, who argued that the conscious and intelligent manipulation of the organized habits and opinions of the masses is an essential element of a democratic society. Today, that invisible government has been digitized, optimized, and weaponized. We have transitioned from the era of Propaganda 1.0, which sought to manufacture consent, to the era of Propaganda 2.0, a high-tech machine designed to manufacture discontent. How did a tool once used to sell torches of freedom and cigarettes become a system that feeds us an addiction to hating one another for profit? How did the peekaboo world of television news evolve into a digital funhouse where contradiction no longer exists? The DNA of modern manipulation was written in the aftermath of World War I. Bernays observed that the same techniques used to regiment the bodies of an army could be used to regiment the public mind. He viewed the average citizen not as a rational actor, but as a cell in a social organism, waiting to have a nerve touched at a sensitive spot to produce an automatic response. This is what Bernays called the new propaganda. It was predicated on the idea that the rubber stamps of the human mind are duplicates of millions of others. When exposed to the same stimuli, all receive identical imprints. In this model, propaganda is not necessarily evil. Its merit depends on the merit of the cause urged and the correctness of the information. From within the system, proponents argue that this is a logical result of how our society is organized. In a world of infinite choice, the invisible governors sift through data to narrow our field of choice to practical proportions. It is a leadership democracy, administered by an intelligent minority who know how to guide the masses for productive ends. Propaganda in this era acted like a printing press for the soul. It didn't care what you thought, as long as it could provide the ink and the stamp to ensure everyone was on the same page of the national narrative. The machine underwent a tectonic shift with the rise of television. Neil Postman argued that this was not merely a change in technology, but a change in epistemology, our very definition of truth. In the age of typography, truth was linked to the written word, which demanded rationality, sequence, and continuity. In the age of television, truth became a matter of credibility, defined not by reality testing, but by the sincerity and attractiveness of the actor-reporter. This created what Postman termed the peekaboo world. Television news is structured as a vaudeville act, where the average length of a story is 45 seconds, too short to be taken seriously and just long enough to entertain. The now. This is a mode of discourse where one story has no connection to the next. A reporter may announce that nuclear war is inevitable and then immediately say, "Now." This, followed by a commercial for Burger King. This format destroys the rules of contradiction. Because everything is experienced as happening now in a present-centered medium, there is no access to the past and no requirement for logic. As Postman warned, we are no longer being controlled by an Orwellian state that bans books, but by a Huxleyan one where the truth is drowned in a sea of irrelevance. While the old media sought the broadest possible audience through a monotone, neutral-sounding objectivity, the modern machine discovered a far more profitable model. Beginning with Rupert Murdoch, the media pivoted to political slant as a commercial strategy. Today's news directors operate in demographic pens or silos. Instead of manufacturing consent for the whole population, they manufacture discontent within specific groups. They don't just report the facts. They sell anger just for you. The 10 rules of hate. Rule 1. There are only 2 ideas. Rule 2. The two ideas are in permanent conflict. Rule 4. Everything is someone else's fault. Rule 5. Nothing is everyone's fault. If both parties are responsible for a problem, like the bloated military budget or mass surveillance, the machine simply doesn't cover it. By 2016, Fox News alone was generating $2.3 billion in profits by cornering the market on older, white, and scared viewers, while MSNBC countered by selling morally superior narratives to liberals. This is what Matt Taibbi calls a journalistic Ponzi scheme, writing checks against future revelations to keep the anger junkies tuned in. Propaganda 2.0 is not just a civilian enterprise. It is deeply embedded in military doctrine under the umbrella of information operations, I.O. Military planners view the information environment as having a dual nature: information as message, the content, and information as medium, the system. This is the apples and apple carts metaphor. The content is the apples, and the transmission system is the apple cart. To achieve information superiority, the military must manage both, ensuring the adversary gets the apples you want them to have while potentially destroying their cart. Black versus white information. White info is wholly truthful and correctly attributed. Black info is deceptive, unattributed, or misattributed. Information fratricide occurs when these two logic systems collide. For example, when a deceptive black operation undermines the white credibility of a public affairs officer. From within the system, doctrine like JP 3-53 argues that in irregular warfare, all actions have message value. Kinetic force, killing people, must be coordinated with influence efforts because actions speak louder than words. One of the most persistent filters in the propaganda machine, 2.0, is the concept of the worthy versus unworthy victim, first identified by Herman and Chomsky. A propaganda system will consistently portray people abused in enemy states as worthy victims, while those treated with equal or greater severity by our own government or client states are deemed unworthy. Worthy story: a Polish priest murdered by communists in the 1980s. Unworthy story: rightist death squads in U.S. backed El Salvador, killing dozens of priests and nuns in the same era. Modern case: the media will flood the zone with worthy victims of Russian or Syrian aggression, while remaining largely silent on the unworthy victims of U.S.-backed drone strikes in Yemen or Somalia. This is not a conspiracy of editors with red pens, but a contested model where news companies simply avoid promoting dissenting voices. Advancement is encouraged among the intellectually unadventurous and the obedient, while prodders are weeded out. To keep the machine running, the media has adopted a model from the world of professional wrestling known as kayfabe, the practice of maintaining the illusion that a staged performance is real. Politics is now covered exactly like sports, with a preseason, straw polls, a regular season, primaries, and a playoff, the general election. The Sunday discussion shows utilize sets that bear an eerie resemblance to NFL pre-game shows, featuring panels of energetic advocates who engage in ritualized fighting. The news is like a Darwinian process for the public's attention. It uses weigh-in ceremonies and boxing cliches, spar, jab, knockout, to depoliticize elections and turn them into blunt contests of rhetorical technique. The crawl and chiron. Modern cable news uses lurid and sensational banners to create highway rubbernecking. They don't want you to turn the news off. They want to stay, using a between-the-lines message that you are betraying humanity if you switch to another channel. Propaganda 2.0 reaches its final lethal form through the integration of big data and algorithms. We have built a black box society where secret codes decide who is a worthy consumer and who is a high-risk subject. This is the panopticon effect. When people know they are being watched, they eventually act as their own guards, regulating their behavior to avoid the gaze of an omniscient power. The algorithm is a curated mirror that reflects only the parts of the world that will make you the angriest or most compliant. In 2013, the NSA was collecting over 97 billion emails and 124 billion phone calls in a 30-day period. This metadata allows the system to compute on all human-generated information to predict your behavior before you even act. The Propaganda Machine 2.0 is a humble case study in the limits of a society that has forgotten how to exist at peace. As James Madison warned, no nation can preserve its freedom in the midst of continual warfare, including the psychological warfare we now wage against our own citizens. There are viable paths for change. Structural reform must begin with algorithmic accountability. Data scientists should take a Hippocratic oath to never sacrifice reality for mathematical elegance. We must demand that the black boxes of our government and corporations be open to independent verification. Are you ready to stop being a node in an automated experiment? Can we rebuild a single national conversation in a world of different facts? Is it possible to stop a system that has become an end in itself? The shadow archives remind us that knowledge is a danger, but ignorance is a cherished asset for those who pull the wires. The choice to step out of the digital funhouse and reclaim your intellectual autonomy is the only way to ensure that the 20-year lie has not become the permanent record of our future.